Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It is time to have a look at the second set of leaks for the next major updates. There is some air stuff, there's some ground stuff, and also some naval stuff. So what I'm going to do in this video is talk about the ground stuff, and then in a future video we'll have a look at the air and also naval stuff. There's a bunch of interesting things here, especially for ground and also the AA systems at top tier. A lot of nations getting some pretty big buffs as we go forward. So as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. The first leak is for the NASAMS. These are a launcher system which is designed for America, but was also exported to a bunch of different countries. And the leak itself is for America and also for Sweden. So it looks like Sweden might getting the Norwegian version of this. Now, what is a NASAM? It's the National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System. And this was the setup where, you know how we have like the slam rams in the game on the Humvee chassis? Well, the NASAMS was the first application of the surface-launched AIM-120 AMRAAM, which is, of course, the slam ram. This means that this will be kind of similar to what we've seen previously, but has a larger upgrade to be able to be updated with better missiles. So the NASAMS themselves, they come in several different variants. You have the first generation, which basically is just a stationary system. It fires the AMRAAM missile from the ground and has a decent range up to about 25-30 kilometers. And then you have the NASAMS 2 and also the NASAMS 3. These are midlife upgrades which add different guidance systems and also just better ways for the AMRAAMs themselves to track. And they also added the AMRAAM ER, or extended range. This massively improved the range, basically doubled it to 60 kilometers, meaning that it's a lot better than what you see previously. Another part of this is this kind of setup can actually be mounted on different vehicles. You see this with different nations. Spain has one, and then also, of course, Norway and a few others have access to it. Finland is another one, Chile, Australia. You also have Lithuania, Qatar, Ukraine. These things are very much spread all over the place. And this means that they could come to pretty much every nation in the game in different variants. And that would be incredibly good. Not all of them mount them on top of vehicles, though. The Norwegian army uses 3 M152A1 HMMWV-based high-mobility launcher vehicles for the AMRAAMs themselves, and also couples them with other systems to make it more powerful. So overall, what you're getting out of this is another massive upgrade to the air-to-air capabilities or surface-to-air capabilities of a lot of the nations in War Thunder. The next vehicle is for Germany, and it is the Jaguar 2, or its full name, the Raketen Jagdpanzer IV Jaguar 2. This is very similar to the vehicles that we actually have already in the game. You have the Raketen Jagdpanzer II, which has access to the SS-11s that you can find in the German tech tree. They recently actually added the SS-11Bs, which are SACLOS guided instead of the MCLOS, which is interesting. And then also you have the Raketen Jagdpanzer II HOT, which has, of course, the HOT ATGM. Now, the Jaguar 2 is pretty similar to the HOT, apart from instead of having the HOT, it has the TOW missile launcher, meaning that it can fire TOW missiles. It can fire the standard TOW missile or even the TOW 2 missile, which is the top-down missile from the Americans. So you're pretty much just getting a standard hull with a missile launcher poking out the top. This is actually really good because of the simple fact that you can go fully hull down and just have the missile poking over a hill. Makes the Raketens very good in specific scenarios, and it looks like the Jaguar 2 is going to follow the same route. It also has a bunch of smoke grenades and good mobility, which actually helps the vehicle quite a lot, and also with the most recent ammo box addition, it means that these vehicles don't just randomly run out of ammo, and then you're just kind of stuck there going, well, what do I do now? For Russia, it also seems like we are finally getting the THOR M1. If you don't know, back in the day, the THOR M1 system was actually added to China. And then in the dev blog, they talked about the fact that this system will eventually come to the Russians in the future. and then go forward a few years, and it looks like it's finally happening. So if you want to see what the Tor M1, sorry, is going to be like, you can actually already see it in the Chinese tech tree. Has access to the 9M331 missile, which is very good in terms of its general uses. It's very good at donking on drones and also other vehicles which are at medium range. It's generally quite a nice vehicle to use against helicopters as well, because the missiles are SACLOs, meaning that you guide them in yourself, and they have quite a large trigger radius. Now, Russia nowadays has a bunch of other missile systems that are also very good. You have the Tunguska, which is always underrated by Gaijin, especially with its upgrade. You have the Panzer, which dominated top tier AA for the longest time. Then you have the Buk system. But this will be a in-between between the Tunguska and also the Panzer, making the grind upwards a little bit easier for different people. The next vehicle is the Type 61 mod for Japan. Not entirely sure what this is. We already have the Type 61 in the Japanese tech tree. It's actually a pretty standard medium tank at 6.7 for Japan. Has the 90mm Type 61, which fires the Heat FS, and also has crazy optics, which don't really line up with the muzzle velocity. But with the idea of the Type 61 mod, my guess is we're probably going to get a premium, which is similar to stuff like the Type 74 Red Star. The premiums around the BR for Japan, you have the Hori prototype, which they might be trying to remove, since technically these vehicles aren't exactly... the Horis are in a weird place. The Hori production never existed. That's just simple. It just never was finished, and the Hori prototype also has a few issues with it in terms of what it should have in game and what it shouldn't. So maybe they're setting up to try and remove it, just like they did with the R2Y2s. So the Type 61 mod, which probably is just a copy-paste of the Type 61 with maybe a bit of additional armor or maybe an additional machine gun, would fit into that gap. So this is just something to kind of watch out for. If you don't have these vehicles researched, they might be disappearing. I'm not saying that they will, I'm just saying there's a chance. So just be a bit careful, because the other variants of the Type 61, they're just stuff like the armory recovery vehicle version of it. So it's not really that useful. There's no different ones with like different guns or anything like that, because the Type 61 is not the prototype one. This one was actually the production vehicle, and they were pretty standard in terms of how they set it up. So the last vehicle on the list is the Merkava Mk.1, but this is already in the game, but it's for the Israeli tech tree. The Americans, before Israel was in the game, got a bunch of event vehicles over different events in kind of like 2018, 2019, 2020, where they got a bunch of Merkavas. They got the Merkava Mk.1, the Merkava Mk.2b, and also the Merkava Mk.3d. This led people to believe that Israel was going to be a subtree of America, but it turned out Gaijin made them an independent tree, which made them unfortunately undesirable to a lot of people. And one of the vehicles that never got moved over to that Israeli tech tree is the Merkava Mk.1, or the Merkava Siman 1, as it is known. Instead, in the Israeli tech tree, you have the Merkava Mk.1b, which is there. This one is slightly different from the Merkava Mk.1. Basically, the Mk.1b has access to a better APF SDS, the M413, and the standard Merkava Mk.1 only has the M111, and the Merkava Mk.1b has access to the LWS LR system, where the standard Mk.1 only has access to a laser rangefinder. So the Mk.1 is just a slightly downgraded version of the Mk.1b. It will end up at 9.3 as long as they don't give it any more upgrades. It also doesn't have access to any thermals on the standard Mk.1. So it generally should fit pretty well at 9.3 for Israel, alongside all of the other vehicles that are there. So that's the whole leak list of the new vehicles that are supposedly coming in the next update. Obviously, this list isn't as large and grandiose as the previous one, but that's not really too surprising, is it? Because the last one was incredibly grandiose. This is kind of the additional stuff that is coming. I think people will be very happy with the NASAMS for obvious reasons. The Jaguar 2 will be fun to play and should be quite enjoyable in the mid to high tiers. And then also I want to see what happens with that Type 61 since that area is already pretty stacked for Japan. Nice to see finally Israel getting the Merkava Mk.1. It's going to be just very similar to the other Merkavas, but generally the Merkavas get worse as they go higher because they can't rely on their armor as much. So having the Mk.1 should actually be quite good, and I would rather play that over stuff like the Gal Batash or the Magak 6B Gal any day of the week. So yeah, this list looks nice. Overall, it just looks pretty fancy and pretty simple, and I'm happy with it. And finally, Russia getting access to its Tor system after many years is nice to see too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecovo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.